It is our pleasure to go out on video chat now, all the way to the United Kingdom. We've got CFL icon Jeff Reinebold with us on video chat. I don't know if it's afternoon, evening. How are you, Coach?
I'm good, Rod. How are you?
Good. That is a very clear connection for all the way across the pond. How's your off season been?
It's been really good. You know, I have a really, I'd say, unique arrangement with the TiCats. When we're done at the season, I can come over here and broadcast NFL games for Sky Sports and all the way through the Super Bowl. So I'll be in Miami for the Super Bowl, and then when finished, we'll head back to Canada.
You've been doing that for quite some time, too, because I've been following you. How did that come about, being an analyst on Sky Sports for the NFL?
Well, to be honest with you, it was just kind of a fluke. I was working in the NFL office here in London, and Fox, owns Sky Sports. So this was where they would send their young broadcasters to kind of cut their teeth a little bit. Aikman started over here. Moose Johnson started over here. And Darren Woodson was supposed to be doing a game and couldn't come at the last second. And it was a Friday. They couldn't get the work visa done fast enough to get anybody else in here. And the president of the NFL office came down and said, "Hey, you fooled around with TV." They said, "Yeah, when I got fired at Winnipeg, I did." And he said, "Would you come on the show and just fill in for Darren this weekend?" And from there, it's been 12 years of doing it.
Well, it looks like you have a hell of a lot of fun doing it, by the way, so that's good. Can you give me a recap of the 2019 Hamilton Tiger Cats season? Because it looked pretty wild from out here.
Well, I think, Rod, when you talk about our 19th season, you got to go back a couple years, because it's kind of that season was the product of, or a byproduct of what happened in 17, when the club was really, we were a mess, and June Jones came in and solidified things and stabilized things. And then, I think it was really unique. And you got to know June to understand. There are very few guys in the world, I think, that would do this. But I think he recognized that Orlando was a hot topic, and that there were a lot of people that wanted to hire him after the 18 season. And he stepped aside so that Orlando could take the job, and was initially going to stay as our offensive coordinator, then got the Houston job in the XFL. But Orlando took what June gave him and really took it to the next level. If you know anything about Orlando, and I know you do because you spend so much time in the league and around the league, he is a unique human being and one of the best leaders I've ever been around. He's a great football guy, but great X&O guy, but more than anything else, he's a person guy, and he believes in people, and he empowers his assistants, and he's completely changed from 2017 to 2019. Completely changed the culture of the club, and had good players. And then it was just a thing about belief. We didn't play very well the last game, and I think that's the one we'll all remember. But you can't take away a 15-3 season. There haven't been very many 15-3 seasons in the history of the league.
None in Hamilton for sure. And actually, we're talking, well, that was the best TiCats season ever. And so we're talking about favorites in 2020. Hunger would be the number one word in Hamilton, I would think, coming back because of what happened in the Grey Cup.
Well, I think, again, I think we have the maturity as a staff and an organization to understand that you're not defined by one game, but certainly we didn't feel at all like we finalized what we had started. So it'll be a season to come back and get back to work. There's so much. God, this is what's so unique about, one of the things that's so unique about the CFL. Everything can change so fast because of the free agency now. When we allowed the players to have one-year contracts as a league, we really opened the door for just these massive free agency moves that can happen. And so teams can get better real fast, and teams can drop off the map real fast. You look at Ottawa. I mean, Ottawa had been to, I think it's 3 out of 5 Grey Cups, and then all of a sudden they couldn't beat anybody. And it was a question that they just had lost all their players in free agency. And so it's every year is a new year, and it's good, I think, in one regard. It's bad in the other regard, because I think it's important in our league that there is a fan identification with the players. And I know particularly where you're at, that's really a big deal. And Hamilton is very much like Saskatchewan in some ways.
How about next year, 2001, 2001? You're going to have the Grey Cup there. That should be a big deal for Hamilton, eh?
Yeah, it's something we've really been, aching to have for an awful long time. When we built the new stadium, obviously that put us in a different position in terms of how the league looks at us. The opportunity to have our stadium's a beautiful stadium, just like yours is, and any of a Grey Cup, it's a tremendous benefit to the city, to the economics of the city, to the image of the city, to the just the whole thing. The whole deal is a huge economic benefit. And I think you guys, I heard you guys talking about how important it is for the riders to be at home next year for your Grey Cup. And I remember when you beat us in 13 in Saskatchewan, how tough it was to walk into that stadium and see 40,000 green shirts and maybe about 15 black ones, because it was really a home field advantage.
When you said the image of Hamilton, something popped into my head. Kent Austin and I are very good friends. Kent said, and E.T., they said, when we recruit players to Hamilton, we have to bring them in at night.
It's funny, Rod. When I first came into the league, I remember after my first year, I'd been around the league, and I really did the CFL cities that well. And after the first year, I said, man, there's two places I know I am never going to live. One is Hamilton, and the other is Saskatchewan. And what I've found is, just like when I talk to Tommy Condell or I talk to anybody who has coached in Saskatchewan, they all say it's a great place. And Hamilton's the same way. Optically, it may not be where you want to spend your vacation time, but you talk about the people, and every city is about the people. And if you're a football coach, you want to be in a city where football is important. And certainly in Hamilton and Saskatchewan, it's the number one priority.
Well, it's funny. You've been in Hamilton long enough. Leo Ezrins always takes me down to that dock or that wharf for lunch on the water. You can see David Braley's place across the lake. So there are beautiful spots, right?
Yeah, I live on a sailboat down in that little harbor right there. So yeah, there are an awful lot of nice places.
I'll knock on your door next time. Now,
all right.
I think everybody was a little surprised that Masoli signed so early and didn't get to free agency. And then Dane Evans welcomed him. He went on Twitter and said, let's get to work in 2020. Only surprised because I don't know how much money there is to go around, but that's a pretty good 1-2 combo. And were you surprised that it happened so fast?
No, not really, because I think it's smart by Jeremiah, because he's going to need time. You still got to understand he's coming off of a major knee injury, and I think he recognizes the fact that he needs time. He and Dane have a very unique relationship. The quarterback room at our place is very, very strong. Tommy does a great job with those guys, and so there's a real they support one another an awful lot. And I was glad when I saw it happen, but really not surprised. And I think you saw today Tunde Adeleke re-signed with us, and that's another huge signing because, Rod, from your time in this league, you win with your Canadian talent. Your Americans kind of cancel each other out, but it's the Canadian talent that wins in the Canadian Football League. And Tunde's a great young player that gives us a lot of flexibility. He can play Sam, he can play safety, and he's a great special teams player.
Do you got a couple more minutes? Because the more you talk, the more questions I have for you, the more I talk. Bobby Dice went off on Twitter watching the divisional playoff games in the NFL last weekend saying, why are the announcers saying these high, deep... Did you see it?
No, I'm watching the game as a special team coach. Imagine Bobby was probably throwing things at the TV.
Then you get it. So he was basically saying, why are these announcers saying these punts that are so high and deep and right down the middle are great, but you don't want returnable punts? Can you talk about the difference between NFL and CFL punting and what you're asking your punters to do?
Well, it's really interesting because, you watch a guy come in to our league, and I'll use Ty Long as a perfect example. He came into our league, and when he was at University of Alabama, Birmingham, he was just punted as far as you can, Ty, and then, that's good enough. It's hard to do that in our league, to punt the ball down the middle of the field and think that you're going to cover the field. It's just impossible. And then you add the 5-yard halo to it, and you're putting your team at risk actually when you punt that way. So when I went to BC in 18, and we worked really hard with Ty to become a better directional punter. The same thing we did with Liram last year, because his net punting is the only stat that matters. How far you punt the ball really doesn't matter, especially in the Canadian Football League. To be honest with you, a kicker's got to be a much better kicker in our game than he does in the National Football League, because you can just get a big, strong leg guy on kickoffs and kick it deep, and it's a touchback every time. And the same thing, Tommy Morstead, who's the highest paid punter in the NFL, kicked for us at SMU, punted for us at SMU. And that's what Tom is. He just hits it high, and he tries to get it outside the hash, but he's more concerned with how far he kicks it. The game is much better in our special teams game is much better in our game. You see some of the things that happen in the game, the creativity of all the coaches in the league. I just, it's a much, much better game. Frankly, I as a special teams coach, I wouldn't want to coach in another league.
You mentioned Adaliki back with the TiCats, but Liram Haralahu released to pursue NFL opportunities. Braylon Addison has signed in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I know you guys well enough to know that you just coach who's there on the field with you. I don't think you worry a whole lot this time of year, but you're going to have some new faces to coach in 2020, do you think?
Yeah, and I think that about those two guys, Rod. I think, and this is the thing people in our league have to understand. The economic reality for a player is that you have a very short lifespan, and to make the most money you can make while you're playing, because for a lot of these guys, this will be years they'll have in their lives for some of them, and so you need to be able to maximize their earning power. And where can you maximize your earning power most? It's in the National Football League. That's just the economics of the game. So I would never discourage a guy, and certainly in Braylon's case, he's a wonderful kid, a great competitor, and a great kid. Or in Liram's case, I encourage Liram to go and give it a shot, because you don't come down this path twice. I mean, it's not like golf or no check hockey or any of those other things that you can play till you're 60. When it's over, it's over. And as a professional athlete, you have to maximize your time when you can earn money. And I think for our league, we got to understand ourselves a little bit too. If we are a league that says you come up here, sign a 3-year contract, and you can't leave for 3 years, it's going to be tougher and tougher for us to get good players up here. We have to understand we're not a feeder system to the NFL. We're not a minor league team, but we are a league that is, understands, a player and understands what a player wants. And so if you talk to Orlando, I think he would tell you the same thing. We encourage our players to go out and get the best deal possible for them while they're playing.
I think this new CBA is a pretty good morph of that. Some great concessions for the players, yet the league's still protected. Lastly, Jeff, NFL Conference Championships this Sunday. Who are your picks?
I'll tell you what, when I look at the games, I think it's really interesting, Rod, when you look at Tennessee and Kansas City first. The whole thing for Tennessee is, can they take the air out of the ball? Can they play slow down football? And what I mean by that is they've got to play great complementary football, and every part of the team is going to have to contribute to that. On defense, they've got to keep the ball in front of them. They got to tackle well, and they got to make Kansas City work for every yard. On special teams, same deal. And even to the point when they go out to punt, they got to go out and they got to use every second of the play clock, if the play clock's running, to keep the game slow. And then Derrick Henry is going to have to be the guy. And, I've watched him. You look at his last 8 games, Rod, and his numbers are as good as they've ever been in the NFL. I'm talking about O.J. Simpson's 2,000-yard season. And he just wears people down. You can tackle him in the first quarter, but if you get to the third quarter, he just wears you out. That 62-yard run he had against Baltimore, there's a linebacker free in the hole that just flat turned him down. And so I think that's going to be a big key. Tennessee can't get behind by 2 scores early. If they do, they're in real trouble. And again, Kansas City's got to play, just beat Kansas City. They were so bad that first 15 minutes against Houston. It was unbelievable. So I think they'll win. And then I think that I just got done watching the Packers against the 49ers game in week 12. And those 5 first-round draft choices that the 49ers have up front, they are something. I mean, Bosa is he is a killer. And so when you look at the Packers, you're really looking at who do you got to stop? You got to stop Devontae Adams and you got to stop Aaron Jones because they really don't have very much other than that. Now, it's tough to bet against Aaron Rodgers, but I think on the road, a fresh Niners team, Kittle's ankle's healthy, and they can run the ball real well. So I think it's going to be Kansas City and San Francisco in the Super Bowl.
Like me, an all-red Super Bowl. Well, Coach,
are you coming? Are you coming down?
No, it's on
the Super Bowl
next year, right, Darren? It's on my bucket list. I've never been, but we'd like to. If we're going, we want to come down with a show, Coach. So maybe we'll plan for.
I'll tell you what. I'll be the official assistant of the Rod Pedersen show for the Super Bowl.
I love it. I love it, man. Book him, Clark. When are you going?
I'm gonna go. The broadcast's over Sunday, and then we got a week here just to tune up for the show. We'll leave the Sunday before the Super Bowl, and we'll be down there the whole week. So I'll be for you anytime you want to do it.
I appreciate it. I checked.
We'll do them poolside.
Well, I check the conditions there every day. Take a coat, Coach, because it's like 24, 25, unseasonably cold. With a little bit of rain. So enjoy. I appreciate it. And I guess we'll catch up with you next week.
Hey, man, keep doing your thing. It's great for our league.
Yeah, thanks for what you do for the CFL. Thanks, Coach. Right. Jeff Reinebold from the United Kingdom today joining us. And, Frenzy, I know we're late getting you out of here. Folks, the Frenzy walk-off, can we get the wide shot? John's chauffeur is here. Hall of Fame rider, broadcaster John Frenzy heading off to the old boys' lunch. Here it is, folks. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Uh-oh. Oh, Lynch, get those pants up. Yeah. And John Frenzy is out of here. Thanks, guys.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.